Day of Chodesh Teves. This weekend, of course, Shabbos is going to be Shabbos Mevarchim. Popping this into the chat so that Chavra Be'ez Hashem can follow along. We are at the very bottom of Tzadi Amud Beis, the very last word of the page, on our way to the Mishnah. The Mishnah at the very bottom of Tzadi Amud Beis begins with the word ha'oinen, somebody that is in a state of aninus. Aninus is when chas v'shalom, a person's relative, a close relative, has died, and they have not yet been buried. And during that period of time, the primary obligation of the person that is in aninus is to take care of the burial of their relative, or to arrange for the burial of their relative. We'll see what that difference is in a moment. And the Mishnah is going to list the oinen as the first person in a list of people that it is a question, at least, whether or not you can shecht Korban Pesach on their behalf. Now, it is important to point out that an oinen is not going to be able to eat from the Korban Pesach, because in a state of aninus, a person is not allowed to eat any korbanos. Somebody that's sitting shiva is obligated to eat in Korban Pesach, so this would be an oinen on the morning of Erev Pesach that they are attending the funeral of a close relative. Once the relative is buried, they're sitting shiva, and then shiva would be cancelled by Yom Tov, and then they would go ahead and eat from that Korban Pesach. So with regards to the oinen himself, so we have an oinen turning over the page to our Amud, which is Tzadi Aleph Amud Aleph. Oinen v'ha mitpakech hasagal, and somebody that is digging in a pile of rubble, meaning that a building collapses, and they are looking for people there, looking for survivors. So what's the concern here is that maybe somebody's alive, and the concern is also maybe somebody's dead. This is somebody that is questionable whether or not they are going to be tameh or tahar by that night. If everybody that they found is alive, then great, they're going to be tahar. And if they found somebody that's dead, so then they are going to be tameh. So right now we don't know. Let's figure it out. And so to me, somebody that was promised that they are going to release him from prison, and somebody that is sick, presumably sick, that it's questionable how much they're going to be able to eat of the Korban Pesach, and somebody that is elderly, and once again, questionable how much they're going to be able to eat, that are able to eat the gezais, meaning somebody that's currently a zaken, you don't get less than, once you're a zaken, you're going to stay that way. But right now, you can eat the gezais. So somebody that eats the gezais, good. That's good and well. If you can eat less than a gezais, then all bets are off, and you would not be included. But in all of these cases of the oinen and the mepakech zagal and the person that's promised that they're getting released from prison, and a chole and a zaken that can eat the gezais, shechten aleim, you can shechten Korban Pesach on their behalf, even though there is a question about what's going to be. Shechten aleim al kulam, for all of them. However, ein shechten aleim bifnei atzman, you don't shecht for them by themselves, meaning you don't have a Korban Pesach that's only for them. A tiny little korban, you say, this one is going to be for the guy that's coming out of prison. That you don't do. Why? Because what happens if something goes wrong? Shema yaviu es ha-pesach psul. Then the Pesach itself is going to be possible. It doesn't have ochlin anymore. Meaning, if he finds out that he's tameh, or if he finds out that he's not going to get released from prison, so then who's going to eat the korban? Nobody can eat the korban. The korban itself is going to be possible. These people are people that need to be included in someone else's korban. Therefore, if something happened, if something went wrong, they are potter from making a Pesach Sheni. Why? Because they already made Pesach Rishon. Somebody did it for them while it was theoretically possible, all things going well, nothing holding them back, that they were going to be able to eat from the Korban Pesach. Right now they are tahar. Right now they're healthy. Right now, healthy enough. Right now they are going to be freed from prison. In all of these cases, you can check the Korban Pesach, offer on their behalf, and if something goes wrong, they are already in fulfillment of the mitzvah of Pesach. They did not fulfill the mitzvah of Achilas Pesach, but as we have noted before, there is a separate obligation from shechting the Korban Pesach and eating the Korban Pesach, and you are yotze to the mitzvah of Korban Pesach to be part of you from bringing Pesach Sheni, as long as shechita was done during a period of time that you would have theoretically been able to eat the Korban Pesach that night. Okay. Chutz min ha-mefakech bagal. The only exception to this list, to this rule that we just said, that you can check the Korban Pesach for them, and then if something went wrong, then they wouldn't have to offer a Korban Pesach. Pesach Sheni is chutz min ha-mefakech bagal, excludes the person that is digging in the rubble to find survivors. Shehu tamim mitchilasa, because if he found somebody, then ostensibly, if he found a dead body, then ostensibly he was already tameh from the point in time of shechita, or at least questionable whether or not he was tameh atar. From the point in time of shechita, he's been standing on top of a dead body for the duration of the search. So he would already be tameh at the point of the search. It's a question whether or not he's tameh. We don't know if he's tameh. And this might be related to Tumas time. We don't know. Maybe he was, maybe he wasn't. Nobody knows. Nobody knows even on the other side of the world. But once you find out, so then you know that he is Tameh. But okay. Says the Gemara as follows. Amar Rabba Bar Huna. Amar Rabbi Yochanan. Says Rabba Bar Huna in the name of Rabbi Yochanan. Lo Yishanu Ella, they didn't teach this din except for, which din? The case of coming out of prison. Ella Beveis Asurim Da'akum. They taught this din with regards to a prison that is run by non-Jews. Meaning, there's a concern. If they say, you're getting out today, maybe they'll let him out, maybe they won't let him out. That's because it's a Beis Asurim Da'akum. Aval Beis Asurim De'ishol. If you're talking about a Jewish prison, Shechtim Mifnei Atzmai, you can absolutely shecht for him by himself. Kevan Da'av Techinu, because they promised him. If a group of Jews said that we're going to, say to the criminal, we're letting you out of prison, you're allowed to go home, they said to him, you can do it. Absolutely. Go ahead. Then you know that it's that he's going to be let out. Since they promised him, they're for sure going to let him out. As the pasuk says, that the remainder of the Jewish people, the survivors of the Jewish people, will not do such a wrong thing, and they don't lie. And that is the pasuk in Tzvanya. Okay, Amar Rav Chisda says Rav Chisda Hada Amar Beis Asurim Da'akum. That din that you taught Rabbi Bar Huna in the name of Rabbi Yochanan about that we're talking about a basin of the Kachavim, that maybe they'll let him out, maybe they won't. Lo Amrun Ela Chutz L'Chametz Beis Pagi. We taught that you don't shecht for him alone, only if the prison is outside of the walls of Beis Pagi. Beis Pagi was the furthest part of the furthest outpost of the ancient city of Yerushalayim, meaning the prison that is inside of the walls of Yerushalayim means inside of Beis Pagi. That's the furthest part of it. If it's inside of Beis Pagi, then you can shecht for him. Why? But if you're inside of the walls, you can certainly shecht for him on his own. What's the reason for that? Because worst case scenario, they shecht for him, they don't let him out of prison. So you go up to the prison gates and you stick the Korban Pesach through the fence. No problem, because he's inside the walls of Yerushalayim. He is able to eat from the Korban. No problem. And therefore, said the Mishnah, if something happened, if something went wrong, then he doesn't have to bring Pesach Sheni. Says the Gemara, Amar Rabba Bar Chana. Amar Rabbi Yochanan, says Rabba Bar Chana in the name of Rabbi Yochanan. Another Rabba saying the name of Rabbi Yochanan. This one is Bar Chana, which is the son of Chana. Means that he was raised by his grandmother. Meaning he's the son of Chana. So his father was the son of Chana. This is his paternal grandmother. Amar Rabbi Yochanan, he said it in the name of Rabbi Yochanan. Lo Yishanu Ella, they only said this din. They only said this din of the psul of the person that is digging in the rubble looking for survivors. Ella gal ogul. That is only if we're talking about a round heap, meaning the building collapsed inwards and now there's a mound, and you don't know. And you don't know what the story is. You're digging in this mound to see if there's any survivors. Aval gal aruch, but if it would be a long gal as opposed to a round one, this would be like if a wall collapsed. You have a wall that like fell over and you don't know if anybody's underneath it. Now you're searching. In such a case, patur milasas Pesach Sheni, then you could still say that it'd be patur from bringing Pesach Sheni. Why? Because you could say tar hayu b'shas shechita, that the difference between a round mound, round pile, and a long pile is that in a round pile, you're walking all over it at the same time. If you're on top of it, so then anything that's underneath that's tummy is going to be tummy. But if it was a wall that collapsed, if it's a long pile, so if you're on this side and you are lifting up stone by stone in a line, then and you found somebody, so then who says that you tummy when they shechted the Korban Pesach? You might well have been tar at that point in time. And therefore there is a difference between the shape of the collapsed structure in determining whether or not you would be chayiv in Pesach Sheni. Tanya Nami, we have a brisa that teaches like this as well. Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai, Rabbi Yochanan ben Beroka, Rabbi Shimon, the son of Rabbi Yochanan ben Beroka, says, somebody that's searching in a pile, in a mound, Itim pater, itim chayiv. Sometimes he's pater from Pesach Sheni, and sometimes he's chayiv in Pesach Sheni. Ketzad, how does it work out? Gal agul, if it's a round mound, v'nintzis is tumah tachtav, and he found out that there was tumah beneath him chayiv, then he has to bring Pesach Sheni. Gal aruch, but if it was a long mound, v'nintzis is tumah tachtav, and he found tumah underneath him, meaning underneath it at some point down, pater, it'd be pater ematar hayi b'shas shchita, because you could well say that he was tar at the time of shchita. Meaning you can make that assumption, unless you know absolutely differently. You can certainly make that assumption because it was a suffix before that, and now you know that it's a vade. You don't know when, but you know that it wasn't at the beginning of the search. Okay, next Mishnah says the Mishnah as follows: Ein shechtanas haPesach al hayachid. Well, that's going to be a problem because we just spoke about in our previous Mishnah about shechting Pesach for an individual. So says this Mishnah, Ein shechtanas haPesach al hayachid. You never shecht Pesach for a yachid ever, regardless of the circumstances or not. Divrei Rabbi Yehuda. That's the opinion of Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Yossi Mate. Rabbi Yossi says, no problem. You can shech Pesach for a yachid. Afilu chabura shel meya, and even a group of 100 people she'enim yicholim le'achol kazayis, that are incapable of finishing a kazayis, meaning between all 100 of them, they aren't able to eat the kazayis. En shech them. You cannot shech the Pesach for this group. Ve'en oisim chaburas nashim ve'avanim gdanim, and you don't make a chabura of women, slaves, and children. And we will see. Does that mean you don't make a chabura of women and a chabura of slaves and a chabura of children, or you don't make a chabura of any of these people together? That is going to be a important consideration. Nevertheless, says the Gemara as follows. Tana Rabban, the Brisa says as follows. How do you know that you are not allowed to shech the Pesach for a single individual, according to Rabbi Yehuda? Because the pasuk says, and then the next word is sharecha. You are not able to shech the Pesach in one of your gates. But the word in one, ba'achat, tells you, says Rabbi Yehuda, that you are not allowed to shech the Pesach for a singular individual. You have to do it as a group, or at least with more than one person. But Rabbi Yehuda says, yachid v'yachid, if you have a yachid, and he's able to eat it. It's a little, Mary had a little lamb, right? It's just a little one. So eat it, go for it, no problem. You can finish the whole thing. Shech the you can shech the him. Asara ve'ein yicholim le'achloi. If you have 10 people that are not able to eat it, ein shech them, you cannot shech on their behalf. Meaning, if nobody is going to be able to eat it, so that everybody agrees that. Rabbi Yossi, according to Rabbi Yossi, how does he learn that word ba'achad in that pasuk? Rabbi Yossi, hi ba'achad, my avidle. What does achad in that pasuk do for him? It helps him for Rabbi Shimon. He needs it for the dinner of Rabbi Shimon. The Tanya Rabbi Shimon says, Minayin lezoveches pischai b'mas yachid b'sha'as isur habamas shu b'loy sasa. Okay, so a little bit of background to the story here. We have a din of Mizbech. There's Mizbech that was in the Mishkan, and there was a Mizbech that was in the Beis HaMikdash. There was a time period where the Jewish people were allowed to bring korbanos on private backyard bamos, where you're allowed to bring a korban in your backyard. Meaning, once we entered into Eretz Yisrael, and before the Mishkan was put up in Shiloh, and then after the destruction of Shiloh and the building of the Beis HaMikdash, it was mutter to offer a korban in your backyard. Meaning you could have like a shtibel korban, right? You had a shtibel in your neighborhood. They had a private mizbech. You could bring your korbanos there. Dinim there. These are dinim that we don't really have tremendous familiarity about because we know all of the halachas from Beis HaMikdash, but you have to have a kohen, and there were areas what to talk about. But practically speaking, there was a period of time that there was the shas heter bamas. However, the exception to being able to bring a Pesach, being able to bring a korban in a bama was, says Rabbi Yossi, was korban Pesach. According to Rabbi Shimon, says, how do you know that somebody that brings a korban Pesach, b'shas isur habamas, where there is an isur of bringing, meaning there is a Beis HaMikdash. You're like, I don't want to go to Yerushalayim. I don't want to go to Shiloh. I want to bring it. I want to bring my Pesach. I don't want to go to the main shul. I want to go to the shtibel mizbech. So if you have a group of people that decide making shtibel mizbech for Pesach, so b'shas isur habamas, where it's asur. So like a couple of years ago, before there was a Beis HaMikdash, we used to do korbanos over here, but in the time of the isur habamas, there's an isur. You're not allowed to do this. Shu b'lo says that there's an additional lo saseh on bringing the Pesach there. Talmud, let me the pasuk says, "Lo yisuchal lizbach as a pesach b'achad sharecha." You're not allowed to bring the pesach in one of your gates. Meaning, when there's an issur, even though there's an issur to do this in general, there's an additional issur of pesach. Maybe that would be true even when it's mutter to bring Kabbalas on Obama. Talmud Loim, the pasuk says, "Be'achad sharecha," with one of your gates. We only said this din when the entirety of the Jewish people goes through one gate, meaning where there is one place that people bring Kabbalas, that's where there is going to be an additional Isser of Pesach on Obama's Yachid. Rabbi Yehuda, how does he know that this din is true? He learns two things from the pasuk, probably because the pasukim say ba'achat and sharecha, with one and your gate. So he learns the din of one and he learns the din of gates. So he learns that ba'achat means that you can't have a korban on a yachid, and sharecha tells you that your gates, that those have to be singular as well. Okay, usually we don't learn two things from one diuk in the pasuk. Would seem to be that there's two. According to Rabbi Yossi says that Rabbi Yossi in our Mishnah says that you are not allowed to. Rabbi Yossi says that you are allowed to bring Korban Pesach even for a Yachid. So how does he know that the halacha is like Rabbi Shimon? Maybe the halacha is like Rabbi Yehuda. Where does he come from in this discussion? He will say to you, you can't think that the din is like Rabbi Yehuda. Like Siv, because I have another proof for this, Ish lefi achlai, that the way that we determine Korban Pesach is only exclusively in accordance with the eating of it. Ish lefi achlai, where the pasuk says Ish lefi achlai tachais alaseh, we know that the din is that it has to be defined by who can eat it, and if you have an individual that can eat it, there's no problem. Ramilei, that's why he passes. That's why he's pushed to understand this Mishnah and this whole sugya in accordance with the opinion of Rabbi Shimon and not like Rabbi Yehuda. Ramilei Rav Ukva Bar China mi Parishna le Rav. Rav Ukva, the son of China from Parishna, made the following argument to Rava. Mi Amar Rabbi Yehuda in Shechnas Pesach HaYachid. How could it be that Rabbi Yehuda says that you're not allowed to shech the Pesach for an individual? That's what he said. Very meaning, because we have a following brayso that is going to contradict this din of Rabbi Yehuda. Isha, with regards to a woman, Barishan shechten Allah, you're allowed to shecht on her behalf, Barishan, for Pesach Rishon. Uvesheni, oisim oisa tefillah la'achirim. But Pesach Sheni, you can't shecht for her individually. You can only shecht for her with a group. Divrei Rabbi Yehuda. This is the opinion of Rabbi Yehuda. Now that is a problem, because if you are going to say that this is the opinion of Rabbi Yehuda, so now you have a problem, because Rabbi Yehuda is the one that is saying that you cannot have the korban on a yachid. You can't have it on a yachid. You can't make it for an individual. Amarle, so he says, Lo temi bifnei atzma. No, don't read it. The brayso is incorrect. Rava says back to Rav Ukva, he says, don't read it as bifnei atzma, that you're not allowed to shecht, that you're allowed to shecht for women on Pesach Rishon bifnei atzma by yourself. Don't say that. Ela ema bifnei atzman, with a group of women. A group of women you're allowed to shecht for them Pesach Rishon. A group of women you're not allowed to shecht for them Pesach Sheni. They have to be joined together with other people. Marle says to them, Mi avdin chabura shekul nashim. Since when do we make a chabura that is exclusively made of women? We have a beferish in this Mishnah on our Amud. Vatnan, our Mishnah says, "Enosim chaburas nashim, ve'avadim ukdanim." You are not allowed to make a chaburas nashim, or a chaburas avadim, or a chaburas kedanim. You're not allowed to do any of that. My lav nashim lichudai ve'avadim lichudai v'kdanim lichudai. Is that not because you're not allowed to make a chabura of women and a chabura of slaves and a chabura of children? You're not allowed to make those chaburas. Amarle, so Rabbi says back to him, no, lie, nashim ve'avadim v'kdanim. You're not allowed to make a chabura of those categories of people exclusively, meaning without anybody else there. Why not? Nashim avadim, you cannot have women and slaves in group, mishum tiflus, because of licentiousness, meaning the slaves are avadim ketanim, that have the din of women with regards to positive time boundaries, but they still are not fully Jewish. So we are very nervous about having a group of women with a group of slaves. That is not an okay group. Ketanim v'avadim. Why can't you have ketanim, little children, and avadim? Mishum, because of pritzusa, because of pritzus. It was normative in some parts of society at different points in time. Says Rashi, avadim ketanim mishum pritzusa demishkav zachar. Is that you had slaves that would be intimate with young boys. And that is the reason that you wouldn't be able to have that. And it's interesting that we didn't say that we haven't explained why you cannot have ketanim and nashim together. Why would that be a problem? So that we haven't necessarily explained. It's possible that you could read this as you cannot make a group of chaburis nashim ba'avadim or ba'avadim ketanim. Those are the two things. But nashim and ketanim, maybe you could. Maybe women and children, you could have a chabura together. To be continued tomorrow. Wishing everybody a wonderful evening and good Erev Shabbos. And looking forward to seeing you all tomorrow. Have a beautiful day.